I love train episodes. Have no idea why, but not this one. Hei, Suo, July, and Mao are on a train to Japan. Hei leaves to buy some food, but he's stopped by the FSB. At the same time, Tanya captures Suo. This guy's name is Repnin. Yes, he has a name. I'm finally using it because he's somewhat important to this episode. So, Repnin basically asks Hei to work for him, since he's a competent agent. They quickly get off topic, talking a little bit about Repnin's backstory. Though he trusts contractors, he absolutely hates them. He thanks Hei for killing Ilya Sokolov, since he was a depraved freak. He was the one to kill Repnin's niece. Though he detested Ilya, it was his duty to handle the man as an agent. Hei says that Ilya wasn't a depraved freak because he was a contractor. He was just a depraved human who turned into a contractor. While this is happening, Suo has a conversation with Tanya about their past together. Tanya asks why Suo didn't kill her back when she had the chance. Suo said that Hei stopped her, but looking back at it now, she's glad she didn't shoot Tanya. And that's because they're friends. Tanya then confesses that there was a time before she was a contractor when she hated Suo. She was jealous of how close Suo was with Nika. Even though Tanya remembers this, she can't remember the exact feeling. She then reflects on killing Nika, and Suo hugs her. So Hei stabs Repnin in the hand, and Suo escapes from Tanya. There's this whole chase scene where Suo jumps in the pool and Tanya watches, remembering the past when they used to play at the pool. But Repnin's command wakes Tanya up from her memories, and she uses her ability on Suo. Suo tells Tanya to stop and pulls out her own weapon. But rather than shooting, she freezes, and then Tanya is shot from behind. I find this scene very tone-deaf. From what we've seen from Suo, she has extreme emotional reactions to death and fighting. But right after Tanya dies, Suo barely has a reaction. Ever since we were introduced to Tanya, the anime has been building her up as Suo's main rival and enemy. Not only one of her best friends, but the person who killed the boy she loved. There's some extremely complex relationship dynamics going on here. But even after everything, Suo still considers Tanya her friend. And right when Tanya gets a hole blown through her, Suo barely bats an eye. Suo cares more about proving that she didn't kill Tanya, rather than having an emotional reaction about Tanya's death. This should be a monumental moment for Suo. Her best friend, who she seemingly just came to terms with, just died in front of her. It's horribly mishandled. Tanya's death extends out to the point of this show, which is losing the ones these characters love. And to not get a proper breakdown moment from Suo is a little aggravating. The moral dilemma of whether she should or shouldn't have shot Tanya shouldn't be the first thing on Suo's mind. She should be losing her mind and crying at the death of her best friend, but she doesn't get a single tear in her eye. Then we learn who actually shot Tanya. It's Shion, and he's with his father. In episode 9, Suo and July are on the train when we run into some familiar characters. They like the way she looks, so they decide to kidnap her. Suo wakes up in Kiko's room and finds the girls dressing July. Then they dress up Suo like a prince. She tells them the story about how she doesn't know where her mother is. Kiko takes Suo to Guy's place, and he finds her story touching. Then they all decide to look for Suo's mother. Hei gives himself a haircut. Hell yeah. Led by the ghost of Amber, Misaki gets a hold of some important audio footage, which turns out to be the Mitaka documents. I don't really know what's going on here, so I'm not even going to try and explain. Back to Guy, Kiko, and Suo, they start looking around town for Suo's mother. They get some info, and Guy leads them to where Suo's mother took the photo. While Suo is alone, Orale, this chick, tells Suo that her mother will arrive at an airport in Haneda tonight at 8. Her reason for telling Suo isn't disclosed, only that she wanted to meet her. So the whole group travels to the airport to await Suo's mother's arrival. We cut to Yoko and Mina having a meeting with this old dude. While Mina's talking to her grandfather, a mysterious figure leads Yoko away. By the time she realizes this, Yoko is gone, and the kidnapper is none other than... So we have this cool chase scene, and Hei eventually makes it away with Yoko. We then end the episode with Suo's mother telling Suo that she died 8 years ago. We finally get some answers. After Suo's mother goes a little crazy, she calls Suo a filthy thing. Suo gets confused and jumps out of the car. Her, July, and Mao walk along the freeway until they finally make it to the ground. July sees an observation spirit. He's all like, "Snitches get stitches," and the specter keeps quiet, which is awesome. Then we cut to Misaki driving down the road. As it happens, she finds July and Suo sleeping near a vending machine, so she takes them with her. When Suo wakes up, Misaki explains the situation. Suo says she doesn't like Hei, and then she says that she likes Hei. Misaki buys everyone some steamed buns, and then explains how Suo's memory of the aquarium can't be real since the aquarium has been shut down longer than she's been alive. Misaki finds Asako's, who is Suo's mother's, home, and asks about her former husband, Mikhail. Asako freaks out, saying she doesn't know anything about the syndicate. Misaki's surprised Asako knows about the syndicate and pries deeper. We also finally get Mao's backstory. When he still had his human form, he had met Asako in Japan just by chance, and then a second time on one of his assignments. His mission was to infiltrate Dr. Mikhail's lab for information. The same day, Asako brought both Suo and Shion with her to deliver her husband lunch. However, it was all a setup. The building was bombed, killing Mao's body and also Suo. Asako finally found her husband after the bombing, only to find him experimenting on Suo. He copied her personality from her body, trying to make their child eternal. Asako was able to grab Suo's body and make a run for it. Later, she had Suo cremated and returned to Japan. This means that the Suo we've known up until this point is just a clone of the real Suo. Hearing this, Suo runs away. When Misaki catches up, she finds Suo sitting on the ground. Suo takes the facts surprisingly well, attributing it to either being a clone or a contractor. Misaki suggests they leave, but she's attacked by Hei. Hei neutralizes Misaki and takes July and Suo away. By the way, earlier in the episode, Hei interrogated Yoko into giving him the information about where Yin was being kept. It looked like he only injected her with truth serum or something, but when we return to the scene, Mina finds Yoko. Well, she's not in the best shape. It looks like after Hei left, someone came in after and tortured her to death. It appears someone wanted to frame Hei, and it worked. Mina vows to kill Hei. Suo finally reconciles with Hei. She wants Hei to call her by her name again. When he does, tears form in her eyes. She tells Hei that it hurt her when he didn't believe her, and even more when he hit her. But when he called her by name, she felt really happy. Even though she hated him for killing her father and hurting her, she felt lonely when he left. Hei complies with her wish, calling her by her name, and then they're friends once more. Look, it's Yin. Okay, so Suo and Hei decide to split up to fulfill their own missions. Hei needs to find Yin and do something about her, and Suo needs to find Shion so she can finally get some answers. Suo, July, and Mao go to the abandoned aquarium where they find Mikhail waiting. He explains everything. First, Shion has always been a contractor, ever since he was born. Second, Suo never existed to begin with. At the meteor incident, Shion created Suo using his contractor ability. Suo is in fact a clone of Shion. Her memories were created by Shion and placed within her by Mikhail using the ME technology. Not only is Suo's memories fake, but so is she. July warns everyone that Section 3 is on their tail. Before they can escape, Genma blocks their path, and he's gone full predator mode. But he's not into little girls. That would just be weird. He's into little boys. They try to run away, but Mikhail is shot by a contractor. They take cover in a nearby building, but Mikhail can't move. Genma calls out to them in the building, so Suo decides to take care of him. Using what she learned from Hei, Suo beats Genma and returns to her father. But when she returns, he's on death's door. We didn't know much about Mikhail through this series, but we receive a nice goodbye between him and Suo. He tells her that she will always be his daughter, meaning that he never saw her as a clone, but as a real person. Then he passes away. To be honest with you, I found this to be a touching moment. I've grown to respect and like Suo more since we initially found her. She's matured and grown stronger over the course of this series. And while she'll never mean as much to me as Hei, I found myself sympathizing just a bit with her. We cut to Hei entering the chamber where Yin is stored, except when he gets there, she's gone. Instead, Mina is waiting for him. In the final scene, we're shown a familiar place from the original season, where Hei found an alternative entrance to Hell's Gate. Suo, July, and Mao stumble upon Misaki, Orail, and the twin dolls. But then Suo disappears. She doesn't know how she transported to the aquarium, but she reacts when she finds Shion on the ground. Hei and Mina fight in a great combat scene. But this time, Mina's ready. She gets the upper hand and defeats Hei. She's about to kill him when she stops. Hei insists that he will kill Izanami. The department head, Goro, shows up and tells Mina that Hei didn't kill Yoko. It's revealed that Genma is a traitor to Section 3 and the one who killed Yoko. He's been undercover the entire time, working for the CIA. Goro further elaborates on what's happening when all three of them hear pounding. Mina says she'll take care of it, so Goro and Hei go on ahead. As Misaki, Orail, Mao, and the doll twins escape, the dolls explain where July went. He was also teleported to Suo somehow. This is because of the gate, somehow. Goro leads Hei to Yin's body, but explains that she's now an empty vessel. Her spirit is now with Izanami, freely roaming within the gate. We cut to Orail, who shows Misaki a secret command base, filled with clones of Shion, that create a super network of dolls that can observe all the memories of the world. All the memories of humankind are stored in this place. Orail reveals her true allegiance to Dr. Mikhail and Shion, who she's been working with for quite some time. We then learn that the moon isn't actually the moon. Shion used his cloning power to copy the entire Earth. Suo pushes Shion through a field outside and talks about how she wishes things could go back to normal. Shion's not looking so good, paying the remuneration for using his ability on such a large scale. In a roundabout way, Shion tells Suo that he did all this for her. Then he disappears. Suo is then transported into the gate. We find July in the gate before seeing someone else approach him. It's August, the magician from the first few episodes. It appears as though he may never have died. First off, I don't like this scene because it's never explained. We're never told why August survived or his significance in the overall plot, though he seems to be incredibly important if he can just walk into the gate and leave at will. But there is something about this scene that I do love. August tells July that their mission is complete and it's time to go back. For the first time, July explicitly states his own wants. He tells August he's not going back. He likes being with Suo. August finds this surprising, boiling it down to a doll evolving. He accepts this choice and leaves July. After seeing July for all this time, it's nice to see that he finally has volition. He's made a choice to do what he wants. Suo finds July, and July leads Suo somewhere. Genma finds Mina after she's killed dozens of American soldiers. They then have an off-screen fight to the death. July leads Suo to Shion. He's in really bad shape. He then tells Suo his last words.
作った世界を見てきてよ。何言ってんのかわかんないよ。パパとママによろしく。お姉ちゃん。
And with that, Shion's soul leaves his body and fuses into Izanami. Then July dies. In response, Suo pulls out her weapon and threatens to shoot Izanami. Izanami then destroys the meteor fragment necklace around Suo's neck. Aurel explains that the only way Suo has been able to retain her memories for all this time was due to the meteor fragment. Without it, she will forget everything. So, we watch as Suo's memories are erased from her mind. Hei shows up and tells Suo that everything's going to be okay. He now knows what's happening and where she's going. In her last moments, Hei lies to her that they'll be together forever. Misaki comes in running, but she's then transported into the sky, where she can see everything happening. Hei touches Yin's core, and a bright light flashes. We're shown a new world with Suo, her mother, her father, and everyone's happy. We watch Suo run down the street, past characters from Season 1. First Babo, and then Misuzu, the landlady. Suo says that she always feels like she's missing something, but even so, she's happy. She also passes July, who's holding November's hand. Yes, that's November. Fight me. It's a beautiful way to end Suo's arc. She's began a new life on a new world with a blank slate. She can now live a peaceful, happy life, and it's all thanks to Shion. Goro says that everything's over, but Misaki counters that this is just the beginning. Then the doll twins tell us that a new gate has opened. We're then shown the alien that will destroy the world, which looks like a male version of Yin. In the future, Misaki, Goro, Mao, and Aurel work together doing something. And ironically, people call them the Syndicate. Misaki hasn't heard anything from Hei, but she believes that he's still alive. And our final shot is of Hei walking away, carrying Yin in his arms. First of all, I want to point out how tear-jerking this ending is. While we don't entirely understand what's happening, we know a few things for certain. Suo and July are gone, transported to a new world created by Shion. They're now blank slates that get to live the peaceful, satisfying lives stolen from them by the dark world of the original Earth. Second, Hei apparently chose not to kill Yin, despite the alien being awakened and likely causing eternal strife. This moment is interesting because it breaks the cycle of Hei's slavery. Up until this point, he's worked for many different organizations throughout his life, always doing what was best for humanity. He lived a despondent, lonely existence to save others, always sacrificing his own wants and needs. But with this ending, Hei has essentially sacrificed the world for his own desires. He chose not to kill Yin, even though it would save everyone else. This can be seen as Hei finally choosing what he wants over everyone else. And that's poetic in a way. For as many times as he's saved countless others, he's finally choosing himself. The only people left from the cast are Misaki, Mao, Aurel, and Goro. I'll be frank, it's a weird combination. They all have almost nothing in common, but it appears as if they're revitalizing the Syndicate, returning it to its origins as an organization meant to help people. It's a hopeful ending overall, but it's really sad to see these characters we've grown to love finally die, disappear, or start a new journey that we won't be a part of. We're finally saying goodbye. However, this ending has just as much bad as it does good. I was afraid this was going to happen, but it looks like we're not going to have any of our questions answered. We still don't know anything about the gates. We don't know Amber's importance. We barely know anything about Bai. We don't know why dolls or contractors evolve. We don't know why Shion created Suo. I could go on, but the main problem is that we're just not told what's happening. There's so much mystery, prophecy, mythology, and technology They're cool concepts, and the world of Darker Than Black could easily be one of the greatest masterpieces in storytelling. But the anime doesn't do a good enough job of explaining people's motivations, the reasons behind certain phenomena, and the crazy prophecy that will end the world. Unless there's a good reason for all of it, it's all just so random. I love this show because Okamura is a master at writing complex character relationships. He is one of my favorite anime protagonists to this day because of his tragic history. He was destined for a traumatic life ever since the Syndicate got their hands on his sister. He worked his hardest, even though he wasn't a contractor, to protect Bai. He became a killer, a self-loathing villain. He only ever wanted peace, but he threw it all away for his sister. For years after he lost her, Hei continued to work for the Syndicate just to find a piece of information that would lead him to Bai. He suffered day in and day out, accepting dirty jobs from the Syndicate before going home to an empty, decrepit apartment. He pretended to be happy to the public, but behind that mask, he felt only despair. Hei is important not because he's a badass, but because he does what's necessary, even when it comes at the cost of himself. He always puts others before himself to the point where life isn't even bearable. In a different world, he would be a white knight, but he was born into a much darker world, and because of his good intentions, he was fated to suffer. I have no choice but to conclude that Okamura failed at creating an immersive plot. The world building was stunning. The characters were fantastic. The motivations were wonderful, but the coherence of the story didn't work. He failed at explaining the prophecy and certain motivations behind characters. He left gaping plot holes in the series that needed to be answered for it all to make sense. I didn't fully understand the ending to Season 1. It was never answered just who Bai and Amber were and why they were so powerful. It was never answered how Bai fused herself with Hei, gifting him only a portion of her power. I still don't understand the significance behind Hei's choice of being both human and contractor. What do any of these things mean, and why are they important? I had the same problems with the end of Gaiden. I loved that miniseries, but the ending gave me whiplash with how quickly things escalated. People suddenly started talking about the prophecy of Izanami, and Yin immediately became a god that killed contractors for seemingly no reason. Why was she the chosen one? Why didn't we get more hints about it earlier in Season 1? And the worst offender of them all was the ending to Season 2. It had accumulated so many questions up until this point that needed answering, but it just kept adding more questions so that we could see a cool Evangelion-like ending. Where did this prophecy come from? Where did the gates come from? The most important questions of the series were not answered, leaving the fans extremely confused. Don't get me wrong, I don't regret a minute of watching the characters in this series, but we're just as confused as when we started the series, and that is a failure on the author's part. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. I recently decided to start reviewing my favorite stories so that I can learn from them. I want to understand what makes a story good and what can be done to make it better. And I wanted to begin with Darker Than Black since I held such fond memories of it from my youth. I'll never forget what this anime did for me, and for that, I'm eternally grateful to Okamura. By the way, I'm a dark fantasy novelist. I've always been drawn toward these dark, beautiful stories because they have such powerful impact on my perception of the world. I love stories almost more than anything else in this world. There's something so mythical and mystical about them that's hard to articulate. Stories made such an impact on my life that I eventually realized I wanted to make them myself. So I did. I've been writing ever since I was in middle school. I was never sure exactly what to write or why I wrote it, but I just did. It became a creative outlet, something I needed more than anything else in my life, and I eventually decided to write seriously. I wanted to take all the elements from anime, movies, TV shows, and music, and write the stories that I enjoy to watch. That's how my novels came about. So, if you're interested in dark, meaningful stories like me, you can check out my novels on Amazon. The link to my author page will be in the description. I miss the old days of storytelling. back when I received stories that scared me. Those same scary stories, those dark, terrifying anime, stayed with me for years after. And that's how you know an author succeeded in their story. Thanks for watching.